Evening, everyone. Welcome to the first meeting of this council year for the Corporate Services and Cost of Living Scrutiny Review Board. And welcome to Councillor Cuss, who is a new member of the board this year. I'll dive straight into the agenda. So apologies. I've had apologies from Councillor Wilson and Councillor Mulhall as well. Councillor Rice. Of course. Agenda item number 2, late items to be introduced by the chair. There are no late items. 1 to 3, declarations of interest. Declarations of interest from anyone? No. Great. Minutes held of the last meeting on the 4th of March 2025. Everyone happy that the minutes are? Yeah. Cool. Thank you. So, item 5. You may have noticed that we don't have individual items on the agenda for tonight's meeting. So we're going to basically use this meeting as a bit of a work programme refresh to set up our agenda for the municipal year. So we're taking a slightly different approach this year in terms of programming. So Jack, I'll just let you come in on this just to say a few words.
Yeah. So thank you, Chair. First bit of this report kind of gives a bit of background about this new refreshed approach to scrutiny work programming. I guess the big message is that we'd really encourage you to see work programming as the first step to good scrutiny. Council operates a huge number of functions. You're never going to be able to keep a watching brief over all of them. And so what the report really encourages is to use the information available to you. And there's will be presentations from officers, but you've also got some performance information from the recent Council Cabinet report to draw on to make informed choices about what you'd like to focus on for the coming municipal year. I think it's important that part of your consideration in that decision on work programming is to consider and acknowledge the kind of the work and the time that goes into facilitating scrutiny requests. And so it's really part of that idea about what value do we want to bring to this topic, and making that call really intentionally about how you're planning your items in and being able to have that conversation with officers about that. I would refer you quickly to the minute extract from Personnel Committee. Personnel Committee recently conducted a review of its terms of reference, and it found that some of the items under absence management, particularly around human resources, didn't fit within its own remit, and so it asked that these were referred to this board for your consideration, which I'm sure you'll come around to. And finally, yeah, it's just that final appendix is the performance information from the June Cabinet report. Again, this is to provide information for you to make your informed decisions about what to concentrate on, because there's a lot that the council does. So that's all from me. I think the next step will be to kind of ask officers to speak a little bit about the kind of matters within the corporate services remit.
Yeah, thanks. So we have Andy, Adele, and Kylie. Here. So they're just going to give a bit of an overview of work currently being undertaken in their directorates, and then hopefully off the back of that we can just basically open up a bit of discussion around the sorts of things that we'd like to see introduced into the work programme for the meetings for the rest of the year. So happy to just pass it over to you in terms of opening things up. Andy, yeah, sure, go for it.
Okay, so my service areas are encompassed in section 4.6 is the digital and physical infrastructure and customer engagement. So this range of services spans IT, digital, the artificial intelligence space. It also, in a non-technical services, covers customer services, all the customer front doors and call centres, council tax and non-domestic rates collection, as well as benefits is also within that service, along with registration services, so like birth, marriage, deaths, and citizen certification. Within that service also is the council's facilities management, so looking after all the buildings. So we proposed some interesting items in the paper that we partly been discussed and have been of high interest to the committee in previous periods, but obviously update them with some more recent areas of potential interest. So the corporate AI program, which is actually one of the largest transformations that the council is doing, and that continues to be working at a very cutting edge space within both the council and the wider national context and local government. And so we're still very much about leading edge of that, so cutting the way rather than just following what other councils and the rest of the industry are doing. So obviously that puts some responsibility on us to do the right thing and challenge what we're doing as far as ethics are concerned, and because how we're doing it now, how we're delivering that, is not just informing what we're doing next to Derby, but is also we have a responsibility because all councils are emulating what we do as well in that space. In regards to council tax process transformation, we're doing a similar quite revolutionary approach to council tax and non-domestic rates collection. We're looking to employ advanced technologies. The main focus around that is to, similar to what the AI was, to deliver real tangible financial outcomes. This is to maximise the collection rates that we get through council tax, because that makes a significant contribution to the council's financial stability. So looking at approaches to actually automate that maximum payment and as appropriate, give appropriate assistance to citizens who may need support in dealing with that and paying council tax. And we've suggested corporate complaints, as there is a significant change to the code issued by the local government ombudsman, and different and changing criteria to how complaints are handled and accounted for and reported on across local government. And we're in the process of resetting those processes at the moment. So I think that those would significantly benefit from challenge. And the fourth item we've identified, which is high interest, is the customer engagement, and particularly the Darcy channel employed for that engagement, which is, as members will recall, has been ranged from being initially contentious because it was so different, but has been collaboratively built on to the new iteration, which is significantly forward in scope. That's the council right at the leading edge nationally, and that continues to be developed. So again, very much I would suggest worthy of challenge and scrutiny to support the ongoing development of those approaches.
Thank you. You're fairly regular to this committee. I think
No, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've had, I think, on more than one occasion, probably over the course of the last 2 years that I've been chairing it, items around Darcy and customer engagement, or certainly customer complaint side of stuff as well. I think last year we had an item on debt management, and we did, I think off the back of that, said that that's something that we potentially look to bring an item back on. I think the idea of doing this is to try and, it'd be good to try and keep each of the meetings on a specific theme. And you touched on debt management and also asset management as something that's
Indeed, that's the corporate management. What was the corporate asset management program, which is focused on maximisation of council buildings, rationalising and appropriately right-sizing and disposing of council buildings, and maximising, for example, from maximising the use of the council house and the building itself, multi-agencies in, etc. Of course, that will become the planning of that going forward will become particularly pertinent as we move into the local reorganisation space.
Yeah. So for me, just thinking out loud, those two items, and other members, please, chip in if you like. I see those two as two possible items that could work well for one specific meeting, and then within that, are you applying AI into those work streams now as well? Are they helping to make those areas more efficient and really important to that space?
Not so much in the asset rationalisation. That's very much a bricks and mortar approach. Within the debt collection, very much so. It's one of the primary pieces of work to actually use AI to understand debt across the council, because it exists council-wide in so many different debt contexts. And by understanding that, we can much more ethically and compassionately collect debt. So focus on those who can pay rather than those who can't pay, and those who can't pay be able to reach out and assist more in payment of debt, and also using technology to actually chase debt. It makes it sound harsher than it is, but by proactively chasing rather than waiting until we get to say a reminder stage or a summons stage, you can encourage early life payment debt, because so many people forget when you remind or a prompt. So that using technology to say, oh, by the way, you're going to be due in a couple of weeks, it encourages so many people, not everyone, but certainly as high as I'll do that now while I think. So it's very innovative in that space, as well as the wider debt space as well.
Yeah, I think we did. I think something that was touched on when we had the initial debt management report last time around.
I mean, since we've launched much of AI, so to say challenging where we are in that space and what next is, I would suggest would be high value.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that for anyone, specifically around some of the possible topics? Yeah, Councillor Cole.
I think it might be useful alongside that, because I know we might do some sort of signposting as well when people aren't able to pay, or if we are doing that, it'd be interesting to look at how we support those who can't, as well as identifying roughly what services do we have in place, or who are we signposting to, or what's our first line when somebody can't pay. It might be interesting to take a look at those. We have the cost of living support and that before, so it might tie in with that.
Indeed, with potentially links into the poverty and welfare reform pieces as well.
Yes, Chair, I wonder, in collecting your thoughts, I guess at some point it'll be about asking the board to decide when to put each of the items. Would it be worth bringing in Adele and
Sure.
And then once you've got an idea of everything, you can start thinking about how to group them, because I think that's a really good point. How do you put the items together to get a good perspective on it?
Sure. Yeah. Happy to.
So I'll pick up on a bit of an overview of corporate management. Myself and Dalton today had agreement on the we've got main service areas, which is HR and AD. We've got projects and change. We've got policy and performance. We've got equality, diversity and inclusion, and we've got comms and marketing. So that makes up Head's directorate. Within that area, so priorities are set by CLT and cabinet as defined by the council plan, and then wider policy frameworks from the government. So people can all work on there. Lead you into sort of the key objectives we've got as a department, deliver statutory regulatory requirements. That's one of the insights, policy, consultation, kind of elements to Head's directorate. Drive delivery of council plan outcomes, which is what the areas that I mentioned shortly. Lead Derby's input into the LGR, that's going to be areas identified. Support organisational focus on funds management and insight tools and how we can use the data better as a council. Champion legal and cultural organisation, which is very important on review ways of working across service offer. So there are sort of key objectives of the area. It's a particularly dynamic environment, so there's lots of going on across the area. Some of this meetings at the moment that this area has been focusing on is inspections and assessments. So there's been a lot of plans process sort of happening at the moment, which is driven a lot of work for the teams. We've got the highlights and there's been justice one and expecting 7 in the housing one as well. So there's key sort of drivers there working with our areas of work. That's giving you an idea of corporate management. Within the report, which is 4.5, I'll touch on 2 of the areas and I'll hand you over to about. So one of the key areas, and it's my team was project and change support, is the MTFP delivery portfolio. So that's been to exec scrutiny a few times. And there's 2 of the programs that Andy's touched on reporting to. So within that, it meets monthly. We look at AI, so that's reported to that board. We have the assets rationalisation programme, which Andy's mentioned. And there are 3 others. So it's demand and insight, which is looking at how we can sort of reduce the demand on services and help citizens when they don't come to the council. What else can we do working with partners? There's efficiency and innovation, which looks at various projects underneath that, one of which is council tax transformation, and there are other projects within that. And then we've got strong online social care. So it's and each of those have got various projects within them that help to drive the MTFP and savings across the council. That was one of the areas. The other area which I'll only touch on sort of briefly, it's quite a big focus of corporate management is local government organisation. There isn't much I can give you because we aren't involved heavily with us in terms of those meetings, and it is quite a big one, hence it's probably more exec scrutiny level, but I know that it was in the report to mention. It is quite cross-cutting, so it is still early days of that. So I can go to balance for the other areas that we can potentially talk about.
So, first of all, I'll talk about our people and culture programme board, which we've made some really good progress over the last 12 to 18 months, which has included the launch of our people strategy. Now that is underpinned by 3 work streams, which are led by Sam Dennis, Strategic Director. So we've got, as part of that, a work stream on engagement, which is looking at some of the key engagements across the organisation, including some positive engagement with colleagues through events such as colleague conference. There's the surveys. We've got a colleague survey out at the moment that closed on the 18th of July. We've got the pulse surveys that is all about valuing recognition through our Heathrow Derby Awards. And we've also got a wellbeing work stream as part of people and culture, which is around our joined up here Derbyshire offer, which includes some enhanced training for colleagues. And it's about having that kind of closer focus and working between wellbeing and attendance management. So we're bringing the attendance management into that work stream over the next few months. You'll know that we've done a recent deep dive 5 in terms of where some of those findings can be shared with yourself, and we'll be coming to or update at a future meeting on attendance. So we've also got the workforce development stream, which is around looking at, we've done skills audits across the council, kind of identify any of the development that's required as part of services to see where we are skills enabled and where we need to do some skills development across the council. So we're also, as part of that work stream, doing some further work to support apprenticeships moving forward. So it's a really busy work stream in terms of people and culture programme, but we're hoping to have a workforce development strategy written by the end of August. So we'll have that to take forward based on some of the results of the skills audit that we've carried out. So we'll have a whole strategy and direction for the council moving forward. Another suggestion was the equality, diversity and inclusion. You'll be aware that a new plan was agreed for 25-28. The plans available there for you to all see. Now that's active work that's taking place at the minute with Anne Webster, and that falls under her remit. She can update you on that as part of the future meeting. We've got the poverty and welfare reform. The board has had a recent update on this, I believe. So we're potentially suggesting that's something that could come back around autumn with any latest position for you regarding the property strategy. So we're actively working to continue to promote benefit take-up and signpost people to support for essentials and advice moving forward to see this. And that's basically it, unless you wanted to go over specifically any of our corporate management business plan objectives.
No, that's really useful, thank you. I mentioned earlier, Jack mentioned as well, that we've had a request from the Personnel Committee for us to dive into a couple of topics around staff absence, including agency staff absence, but also colleague well-being. So that seems timely given some of the work that's going on that you've just referenced around the launch of the people strategy, and also the skills audit that's carried out. So it seems like there's maybe an opportunity here to look at having a meeting specifically around the staff absences and also tying the colleague well-being into that. Is the people strategy, so is that launched now? And then there was also, and there was another review that you mentioned. Is it coming up in
We're
August?
looking to put together a workforce development strategy. Now that will be based on the skills audit findings that we're currently putting together at the moment and looking at the development across the council.
So I'm thinking in potential timings for a meeting of when we could have this particular area brought forward. Would a meeting later in the year, or maybe even our last meeting is March of next year, by the time we've got round to March of next year, would the people strategy would have been fully launched and implemented? You've then got the other piece of work, the workforce strategy will have been launched as well. So that seems like it might be a good meeting time to look at bringing those items to the committee.
We can update on the attendance, but it won't be just a real comparison to because the year finishes the end of March, so we could do a part year update.
Great. Any other thoughts on some of the topics that Alan looked at? Yeah, Councillor Coss.
Just on staff absence, are there any additional we're going to put them in all the time again and looking at
We do have a look at intention board as well, so that is one place that we can encompass into that report for you.
Okay. So I've jotted down, so we've got on that specific report then for that meeting, we'll be looking at staff absences and agency staff absences with recruitment and retention, and then also colleague wellbeing. Cool, so I think we The 5th of March 2026 would be the meeting discussed that would make sense for that one. Going back to just Andy and the previous discussion around debt management, asset management, and Councillor Core, you're also referencing, you referenced signposting support for people, which was that something that you also just touched on about?
Yes, it was, yeah. That was part of a recent update that you've had, isn't it, on the poverty and welfare reform?
Okay. So I wonder if they could be something that we're all brought together in a specific meeting as well. We've got a meeting on the 25th of September. Does that work for yourselves as looking to bring some items forward for asset management, debt management on that and signposting?
I think that would work, yeah.
But as part of that, Chair, will we hopefully looking at the role perhaps of the local area coordinators? Because there are certain people in terms of debt management who are really struggling, and the involvement of local area coordinators may be able to help in terms of their support.
I'm not entirely sure whether the local area coordinators are part of that debt recovery.
Debt recovery, it's obviously when we're aware of various individuals, peoples who may be vulnerable in the community, then I think the local area coordinator certainly have a role in helping support them.
So I wonder if that would fall into more of the cost of living side of the committee, and that, so not necessarily in terms of the debt recovery and debt management side that Andy and his team look into from.
I think there's crossover.
Yeah.
Isn't there? So I think it's absolutely that local area coordination crosses over into welfare reform, poverty and intervention. It probably crosses over more so than debt into that area, to be fair. But they all run into each other, don't they?
Yeah.
It's not hard to like draw a hard line between perhaps the three. Well, I think that's sorry. I was just going to say I think that challenge can just express that is exactly the kind of challenge that is of value in that poverty space. Is there more that can be done in this space with local coordinators? Is there other challenges that need to be considered? And I think that's fine.
Yeah, well, we can certainly go away in that case then and see if along those items on the agenda, if there's something specific around the local area coordinators and the role they play as well. Councillor Core.
In the past years, we've had quite a few updates on cost of living sort of services. We've had like the Christmas updates and various things that go on. Would it be fair to dedicate a meeting with the point that Martin's just made out and local area coordinators, perhaps an update on some real things that we've looked at before, but maybe basically see what's going on this year, basically. So things have changed.
Like an update on how, so I should add as well that Councillor Wright has also come with a request to see whether the board we could look at community cohesion from a cost of living aspect, specifically for us. So I guess within that might fall within some of the partnership work that we've seen happening before. We've had updates from Food for Thought Alliance and other organisations and how things on various payments and support that's on offer to residents, particularly during the winter. So that would seem like a meeting, and one of our meetings possibly, if we're looking at the other two booked out in September and March, the December meeting during the winter time could be a good time to have a cost of living focused agenda.
Comms is also mentioned. Would it be looking at the comms angle of how we're promoting some of those things as well? That's through the use of social media and what we're already doing. It would be quite interesting to know.
Yeah. when I was looking at the and you mentioned around stuff around the LGR, also on the delivery plan, there's reference to the our transition to the combined authority. I do think and yeah, as you say, from an LGR point of view, it seems it's probably quite early days. That the items that interest me, but as we're trying to set up kind of meetings focused on various themes, I'm minded to think at the moment that it might not, that we're probably just forcing them in there somewhere at the moment, and maybe there's still a bit of time to run, certainly on the LGR side of stuff, before we look to maybe bring that to a committee. Yeah. Okay, I feel like we've got a rough.
So can I ask the committee just to run through again the three meetings?
Yeah.
So for the 25th of September.
So 25th of September, we were going to look at some of Andy's work around debt management, but then also with asset management as well. If that's okay.
Absolutely. They're two distinct things rather than running into each other.
Right.
That was going to be the question, whether debt management, the kind of point might have been that came into the cost of living meeting.
Okay.
And kind of linked closer to that, if that was an area that you're interested in.
I think we made the point that they were kind of inextricably linked, whether the debt ran into the cost of living and the poverty ran into the interventions within the community. Possibly think about how big that conversation is.
That would be quite, yeah. That would turn into quite a significant meeting. Should we go with the one that we do know that we're happy to move ahead with, which is, so if we book the last meeting in, so 5th of March, which is people strategy, colleague absence, agency absence, and colleague wellbeing.
I was just going to suggest that the debt side of things would possibly standing alone as a separate item, because when there's situations with debt and people need help with debt, there's kind of a clear path to signposting into the poverty and cost of living processes, and kind of pass that over to intervention. So perhaps that's it. That can be looked at in detail on its own merits, and the debt on its own merits, because there's plenty to go at in that AI space, debt collection, ethical debt collection in their own right, I would suggest.
Okay. So we're saying we can have two separate items for a cost of living meeting.
Yeah.
One focused around the debt.
And then members could choose to actually link and read more across.
Yeah.
The initial ones are stay with the AI and with the debt management.
Yeah. So the December meeting, if we theme that as our cost of living meeting, where we could look at the debt management side of things, and then within that the community cohesion side of stuff that Councillor Wright referenced, and I'm just assuming on community cohesion the role of local area coordinators would also fall into that.
So those are three separate items then that you're put. So there's a debt management, community cohesion, and a cost of living update in that three. Those
I think so, yeah.
Three slots.
Yeah.
Those are separate items, but just questions might overlap. Yeah.
Yeah, it's three, substantial items, but then, the cost of living is an important part of this board. Okay, and then we have one final slot, which would be the September meeting. And I wonder if there's something around focusing on the MTFP delivery. Just trying to think some of the things that you referenced. Is that one? So that's around the asset management side of stuff. Yeah. If members are happy with that, to dive into the asset rationalisation side of stuff. Council buildings, how they're being managed, and
We've got that. Yeah. Okay.
okay. I mean, we can be flexible as well if members, if there's other things that pop up that on a particular, I think the cost of living meeting is probably covered off in terms of there's quite a lot down on there already. Maybe likewise the meeting in March, but around the asset rationalisation, if there's other things within that you'd like to explore that are themed along that, we can have that discussion. Great. Okay. So that was really it for the plan for this meeting, was just to open up the discussion around what we can discuss in the work programme, which I feel like we have done. So I'm happy to draw the meeting there, and thank you everyone for